Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here. Get ready for Gnosis. Well, let's talk about one of the major poison foods out there that is consumed en masse by millions of people per day and causing even further health problems because of some idiot reality that I can't quite understand of why people find it attractive. It's kind of a chic food apparently, and people somehow think it's low calorie, good for you, and helps your diet. Again, based on the illogical understanding that is one group of people who tend to live long, the Japanese, consume this food. Now, I'm not sure how much sushi is consumed by the Japanese. They eat a lot of everything, including fried foods. But the bottom line is that sushi, which is basically a bowl of rice, sticky white rice, which has the lower nutrient value, but rice in general has fairly decent nutrients in it. But white rice is a processed version that you make in a ball, and then you take a tiny strip of raw fish that you cut off. Raw fish, never been cooked. And you got to remember, what do you mean prepared? They're not really preparing it in any particular way. They're cutting a piece of raw fish. It's not that crude. And of course, maybe they're using certain areas and whatever. But the bottom line is that they take a piece of uncooked fish, put it on the top of that, and then you eat it. Not only is this very badly tasting, I mean, if you like raw fish, well, why don't you just lick a piece of fish out of the supermarket somewhere, and you'll get the same kind of taste, I should say, and a lot less cost to you. So I don't quite understand it in general, but I guess, everybody has their own liking, and why someone would go out and eat sushi, and this snotty little way of these people doing things that think it's chic really shows the low mentality of what's going on there. So the whole idea is eating anything raw is a very bad idea, particularly now. First of all, the oceans are a giant sewer. Everything goes in the ocean. All the horrible stuff, including hundreds of thousands of cans of radioactive waste that are just thrown in the ocean. And when the cans didn't sink, they shot them with artillery guns. This is what your military does. Thank you for your service. So the whole idea is that all the things that go on out there is the reality of the sewer world we live in. Now, this has become a very fashionable thing, the chic thing, and because it's expensive, it became even more chic, particularly with Hollywood stars and, of course, in different places, particularly in California and the Los Angeles area, which has a huge Asian population. But it's around the world that there are sushi restaurants. And sushi restaurants seem to be popular. And again, I don't quite understand why. I've had sushi on a couple of occasions. It's just garbage. I would never eat it. It doesn't taste good. There's nothing nice about it. Raw foods in general, people claim that they're good for you. Now, maybe if they're raw vegetables, and there's the raw food diet that's out there, which are vegetable-based, well, it makes sense to a degree. But a lot of times cooking something breaks it down so you can assimilate it better. So when it comes to raw foods, well, salads are raw foods, and that's why they're kind of good for you. I don't know how great they are for you in general, but of course, that kind of stuff generally is thought to be good. There's a great confusion with that right now, and diets, which I'll talk about in other videos. We've gone through an entirely mind-screwing new diets out there. And all the old diets, which of course should die and die quickly, don't work and make people sick. Even if we're not talking about diets of junk food or chemical food or processed food. Just the way people are eating doesn't work, and that's why everybody's fat. So to talk about that, but the whole idea is that sushi is notoriously problematic because it has worms in it. These worms are not giant worms that you can see. They're very small worms, and people eat them. Then it goes into their system because nothing is being cooked. So none of the worms are ever killed that are in these fish. So the whole idea is people eat this, it goes in there, and it makes them extremely ill in many occasions. And God knows how many people are sick from sushi in general. It should really be an outlawed food because this really costs a lot of money for the country and the medical systems that have to support these people. Two famous people that almost died from sushi worms is Cher, the famous singer, and Bette Midler, another famous singer. Now, these are older people, maybe younger kids never heard of Cher, Sonny and Cher. But the whole idea is that Cher got very ill from this, from eating sushi, and so did Bette Midler. And Bette Midler stated, and I think Cher did as well, I don't know exactly, that they almost died from it because they had a horrible, horrible dysentery that happened from that. So this is something that was 100% avoidable. And we have to be careful. It's not what you think is good, that here's a raw food. Of course, I don't know how a raw food put on a bunch of carbohydrates are any good for you. Rice, if that's all you're living on, is okay. That's why you don't see too many fat Orientals, because they're not eating anything else. So that energy they take in, which is high in carbohydrates, meaning sugars, is immediately burned and go out of their system. So it's not a problem. And of course, pastas and so forth are cooked in a particular way by the Italians, not the way it's done here. And they use a particular type of noodles there, pasta. So the whole idea is that all that has to be understood in the bigger picture. But we need to understand that anything you eat raw in this day and age, you're insane. We have too many bacterias, viruses, and of course the good old parasites that are everywhere. So these fish are loaded with parasites. They live when they're cut off this way, and you ingest them alive, and then they feed off of your internal guts and blood. So this is exactly all the wonderful things that you can invite yourself eating that really what is a disgusting food, as so many things in the Japanese diet are, with their eating of live fish and everything else. Of course, their love of whale meat, as they murder hundreds of whales every year. The butchering of dolphins, where they put them in a giant kind of lagoon and then chop them to death. All the charming things we get from that diet. We can add in now sushi, which is the ultimate revenge against Western civilization, to feed you worms. So you get all these parasites in. And anybody who eats sushi is an ignorant boob. You know, these are the same problems with people who risk their lives with stupid sports like skiing and all these things. But the idiocy of common people out there will never end, and people will never get it. And that's the way to go. So stay away from the sushis. Make sure you cook all your meats well. Make sure there are no parasites left in them. The way you do that is by cooking the meat well. Once you cook the meat well, and if you want to, you can even get a thermometer. But a lot of these hot air ovens now cook very high temperatures that go inside and take care of all that. So you get rid of all the parasites. And of course, you're going to get rid of any kind of bacteria or viruses that may be there as well, because you've torched them and killed them. Very important, because everything on this planet, no matter how well handled it is highly toxic with all these things. Salmonella is another big problem, which is hits a lot of salads and other things that are out there that you get these. And again, this can be a very deadly disease as it gets into your intestinal tract. And again, that is something you do by accident. When you eat sushi, you're doing it deliberately. And that is just plain stupid. But the world goes on, and the world is pretty stupid. You have a question? You need a little advice in the future? We'll ask the Mystic Pyramid.
The tides are about to turn.
Oh, nice positive information there. Until next time.